Welcome to the deep dive. We've got a stack of recent sources for you today, articles, research notes, all focused on the really fast-moving world of cybersecurity and tech news.
That's right.
Our mission really is to cut through all the noise, pull out the key insights, and give you a clear sense of what's actually happening right now. Threats, defenses, regulations, the whole bit.
And it's quite a mix today. It really shows how these sort of technical details can have huge real-world impacts, affecting everyone from massive companies right down to, your own personal security.
Yeah.
Keeping your systems safe is super important as businesses rely more and more on digital systems, and that's where turnkey cybersecurity can really help.
Yeah, we're here to help small businesses just like yours make sure they're safe and sound in this crazy world of cybersecurity. And we offer a whole suite of services specifically tailored for you. So that's ensuring CMMC compliance and doing penetration testing. We also run vulnerability scans, and we can help you develop a comprehensive risk assessment.
And it doesn't stop there, right?
No, it doesn't.
We handle incident response, should the unfortunate happen, and we guide you through migrations like GCC. We just want to make sure your transitions are smooth and that you're secure.
It's all about peace of mind, right? You focus on what you do best, running your business, and we'll make sure that your digital world is safe and sound.
We'll look at some urgent updates you might need to act on, explore bigger trends like nation-state activity, the ransomware problem that just won't quit,
Right.
dive into some, frankly, scary vulnerabilities in critical infrastructure water systems, for instance,
Okay.
and then unpack what governments and industry are trying to do about it all, plus lessons from some, well, pretty eye-opening data breaches.
And some of these insights are surprising, maybe even a little unsettling, but there are practical takeaways too. So let's just jump right in. Immediate security changes, active threats. What did the sources say?
Okay, first up, a pretty significant change affecting anyone who runs a website. It's about TLS certificates.
Ah, right. The things that make HTTPS work, that give you the little lock icon in the browser.
Exactly those. So the body that oversees them, the CA Browser Forum or CAB Forum, they've been steadily reducing how long these certificates are valid for.
It used to be years, didn't it?
Yeah, started 10 years, then dropped to 1 year. And now, according to these sources, it looks like it's heading towards a maximum of just 47 days.
47 days. Wow, that's a massive jump down from a year. Why so short?
Security, that's the main driver. Certificates get compromised, right? And the
Mhm.
problem is revoking a compromised certificate everywhere,
Yeah.
instantly. It's just really, really difficult.
Mm.
So by cutting the validity period way down, if one does get compromised, the window for attackers is much, much smaller. It tackles that risk of long-term misuse.
Makes sense from a security perspective.
But as the sources point out, it definitely creates a new headache. A big one, really, for website owners. Suddenly you're managing certificate renewals and deployments way more often.
And what happens if you miss that 47-day window? If your certificate expires or is older than allowed?
Well, this is crucial. User browsers will simply refuse to load your site.
Oof. Instant outage.
Instant outage. So, yeah, a major operational change is coming for a lot of people.
Okay. Definitely something to watch. Now let's shift to something, well, brand new and maybe a bit chilling. These sources talk about the first ever zero-click vulnerability found in an AI system.
Yes, Echo Leak. That's what the researchers called it. And the name really says it all. It needed zero interaction from the user for an attacker to exploit it.
Zero-click. That's the kind of thing that keeps security people up at night. It just happens in the background, right? No dodgy links, no bad attachments.
Precisely. This one targeted Microsoft 365 Copilot. And the potential was that an attacker could steal sensitive data that a user had shared with Copilot.
Just by using it, without doing anything wrong.
That was the potential risk, yeah.
Yeah.
Entirely without the user's knowledge or any specific action on their part.
Okay, that's concerning.
The good news, though, highlighted in the sources, is that since Copilot is a cloud service, Microsoft fixed it on their end, server side.
Ah, so no patching needed by users.
Nope. Zero user action required to be safe from this specific bug.
Okay, well, that's a relief for this one instance. But the bigger picture.
Yeah, the takeaway is probably, assume this is just the first. As AI gets more complex, more integrated, we should probably expect more of these zero-click or, very low interaction vulnerabilities to show up.
A sign of things to come, perhaps. Okay, and speaking of things happening right now, what active threats are making the rounds, according to these sources?
Well, we're seeing a rise in voice phishing, specifically campaigns where scammers pretend to be Salesforce support.
Trying to trick employees into giving up credentials or info.
Exactly. Always verify who you're actually talking to on the phone.
Good advice. What else?
And email scams. These are using fake social security info to scare people. The goal is to trick you into installing remote access software.
And once that's on your machine?
They've got the keys to the kingdom, full control, access to your data. So yeah, any email about your social security should trigger immediate suspicion. Huge red flag.
Got it. Anything else notable on recent threats?
One thing mentioned is a recently patched Apple WebKit 0-day. Apparently this bug had been around since about 2020,
Oh, wow.
but was actively being exploited since maybe 2018 before it finally got fixed. That's a long, long time for attackers to have had access through that vulnerability.
Years. Okay, let's zoom out a bit. Look at some broader trends. The sources talk quite a bit about China and how they're using AI in cyber operations.
Yeah, and what's interesting is it's not just about finding AI weaknesses. It's about using AI to make their existing hacking methods more efficient.
So amplifying their current capabilities.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Given their huge workforce dedicated to this stuff, it's like optimizing the assembly line. The FBI, quoted in the sources, gives specific examples.
Like what kind of things are they automating or boosting with AI?
Okay, so generating fake business profiles,
Yeah.
fake social media accounts at scale,
Yeah.
makes their initial reconnaissance much more convincing.
Harder to spot the fakes.
Right. Then, crafting really believable spear phishing emails, tailored messages that bypass filters and human suspicion. Once they're inside a network, AI helps them map it out quickly, find the valuable stuff faster. And, maybe the most disturbing, creating deep fake videos.
Peaks, how?
Imagine getting a video call or message. It looks and sounds exactly like your boss, urgently telling you to wire money somewhere.
Oh, that's bad.
So AI is speeding up and refining their whole attack chain from the first contact right through to exploitation. It's, like you said, amplifying what they already do. Business as usual, but on steroids.
Okay. Another trend that just keeps going. Ransomware. There's a statistic in here from Rubric Zero Labs that honestly made me do a double take.
It's pretty stark, isn't it? 86%. 86% of global companies admitted paying ransom demands in the last year.
86%. I mean, if anyone's wondering why ransomware is still such a plague, well, there's your answer. It's incredibly profitable if that many victims pay up.
And the sources connect this to a key insight. Too many organizations still focus mostly on recovery after an attack happens.
Instead of preventing it in the first place.
Exactly. Not enough investment in robust prevention. That focus on recovery, while necessary, is often where the defenses fail initially, leading to that high payment rate.
And these attacks aren't just hitting, big tech or finance. They're impacting really fundamental sectors, too.
That's right. There's a concerning rise noted in attacks on the food and agriculture sector specifically.
Really?
Yeah, the sources say attacks doubled in Q1 this year compared to last. 84 recorded attacks.
And we saw a real-world example of this recently, didn't we? The UNFI attack.
Absolutely. That attack on a major food distributor, it directly led to empty shelves in big stores like Target, Walmart, Whole Foods.
A direct line from cyber attack to physical disruption.
Definitely. Shows how fragile these supply chains can be. And that 84 number, it's almost certainly an undercount.
Because smaller places might not report it.
Exactly. Especially smaller farms or food businesses. The true number is likely much higher.
Okay, it's a sobering picture. Let's shift to something even more critical, if that's possible. Our basic infrastructure, water systems. The sources discuss vulnerabilities there.
This is deeply worrying. We've seen reports of attacks on water supplies before, and the sources emphasize, we've been lucky so far. No fatalities yet, but that seems more down to luck or attackers not fully pushing their advantage.
And researchers found a specific widespread flaw.
Yes, a bug related to a TLS certificate configuration. Basically, it allowed them to view the control panels of hundreds of public water systems.
Hundreds, just view them.
View hundreds, yes, which gives attackers valuable intelligence. But worse, in dozens of those systems, they could actually change the operational parameters.
Change.
Yeah.
Like change chemical levels.
Exactly. You could potentially increase things like chlorine to dangerous levels, or decrease chemicals, letting contaminants through, especially if the system isn't monitored constantly.
That's terrifying. What else?
Beyond poisoning, you could potentially damage expensive equipment, cause shutdowns, lots of potential harm.
How did they even find these systems? Were they just exposed online?
Essentially, yes. They found them by looking at the code on public web pages linked to these control systems. And they found 40 public water systems just completely unprotected, visible on the internet.
40 systems wide open. And what happened when they reported this? to the EPA, the manufacturer?
Well, they notify them immediately. But the response, according to the sources, was slow. Frustratingly slow. After 9 days, less than a quarter were secured.
Less than 25%.
Yeah. After a month, just over half. And even 6 months later, while most were fixed, the sources say not all of them were. And they don't specify which cities might still be vulnerable.
At timeline for fixing something so critical?
Yeah.
It's alarming.
It really highlights the challenge, doesn't it? Getting all these different operators, often with older systems, to update and secure things quickly. And remember, this isn't just theoretical. Pro-Russia hackers showed last year they can manipulate industrial controls.
Right.
Water is just one example. Think power grids, transportation, all kinds of critical infrastructure.
Right.
State actors like Russia, China, they're known to map these weaknesses, catalog them,
Right.
maybe for later use. And they're certainly not telling the EPA when they find one.
A chilling thought. Okay, so given all this, what are governments and industries actually doing? There's a new cybersecurity executive order mentioned from June 9th, 2025.
Yes, an EO. Stated goal: strengthen U.S. cybersecurity. It's broad, covers software development, internet routing security, BGP, quantum computing threats, PQC, AI security, IoT, encryption, sanctions, digital IDs, lots of areas.
Sounds ambitious, but the sources seem skeptical about its real impact.
They do raise questions. First, it's an executive order, right? It's a presidential directive, not a law passed by Congress. And crucially, this one came with no dedicated funding.
Unfunded mandate, basically.
Pretty much. It also amended previous EOs, and some specific changes drew criticism in the sources.
Like what? What got changed or removed?
Okay, one section encouraging strong digital IDs for public benefits was removed. The official reason cited fraud concerns, but the source notes the original text just asked NIST, the standards body, to develop standards for strong IDs. It didn't mandate their use. Another big one: removing the requirement for federal contractors to attest they use secure software development practices.
Wait, they removed the requirement for suppliers to say their software is built securely?
That's what the source indicates was removed. And it links that removal to potentially making it easier for, say, Chinese hackers to continue targeting government systems through insecure software supply chains.
That seems counterintuitive for strengthening cybersecurity.
That's the concern raised, yes. There's also a shift in the AI focus now, mostly just on finding vulnerabilities, maybe less on broader AI safety. And the post-quantum cryptography part.
PQC, right. Preparing for quantum computers breaking current encryption.
Exactly. The EO requires agencies to list PQC systems and plan migration, but it doesn't mandate using TLS 1.3 with PQC by 2030.
But isn't TLS 1.3 standard now? And aren't quantum threats expected before 2030?
That's the critique in the source. Industry largely uses TLS 1.3 already. Without mandating PQC within it soon, a lot of currently encrypted data remains vulnerable to future quantum decryption, basically kicking the can down the road on a known future threat.
Okay. Anything else about the EO that stood out?
Let's see. It removed the ability to sanction U.S. entities attacking the U.S., though other laws might cover that. There's also mention of a rules as code pilot program.
Automating compliance checks.
Yeah, but it's described as years away, probably only for huge companies, and even the administration admits it might not work. And overlaying all this skepticism is the context of CISA, the main cybersecurity agency.
What's happening there?
The sources mention significant downsizing. Over 1,000 staff reportedly left, budget reduced by around 20%. So the question is, how can an unfunded ADIOM be effectively implemented by an agency that's losing people and resources?
Yeah, that raises serious doubts about follow-through. Okay, shifting to defense contractors, CMMC compliance. There was some clarification needed.
Yes. Big point of confusion. If you have an existing DoD contract with the 7012 DFARS clause, the one requiring certain cyber controls, do you need to meet CMMC standards now? Or only for new contracts once CMMC is fully launched?
And the answer is?
The sources are clear. Yes, you need to comply with that 7012 clause on your existing contracts right now. It's not just about future CMMC rules.
And is it being enforced, even before the full CMMC rollout?
Definitely. The sources state the Department of Justice is taking enforcement action based on non-compliance with the existing 7012 clause. About one case a month, apparently, not waiting for the new CMMC framework.
Good clarification for defense contractors. Now, state lawmakers and AI, they're pushing back against federal regulation.
This is where it gets really interesting, yeah. Sources mention a letter to Congress from 260 state lawmakers. Their message was basically, keep your hands off AI regulation, let the states handle it.
Why such a strong stance?
Well, the context given is a massive Senate bill over 1,100 pages, mostly about taxes, spending, the debt ceiling.
Okay.
But apparently, buried somewhere in there is language that could effectively nullify dozens of existing state laws about AI. It could preempt them, force states to repeal laws they've already passed.
So the feds might wipe out state-level AI rules.
That's the fear. The state lawmakers want to keep their power to regulate or not regulate AI as they see fit locally, not have it overridden by a potentially unread section of a huge federal bill.
That classic state versus federal tension over new tech. Okay? And quickly, banks and breach notifications.
Yeah, banking groups asked the SEC to pull back a rule requiring banks to notify customers about data breaches.
Why? Don't customers need to know?
Their argument, and the source's commentary, is that the current SEC rule is overly complicated, full of weasel words, essentially allowing lawyers too much leeway to interpret whether a breach actually needs reporting to customers. They seem to want either a simpler rule or maybe no mandatory rule at all.
Interesting angle. Okay, let's look at some specific tech from industry and lessons from recent breaches. Microsoft has a new recovery tool.
Yes, quick machine recovery. This came directly out of that big CrowdStrike outage that caused widespread blue screens a while back.
Right, I remember that.
So this tool lets you remotely configure or patch a machine after it's crashed, after the blue screen.
How does that work if it's crashed?
It boots into a kind of safe diagnostic mode, enough to connect to Microsoft servers, download fix a patch or configuration change, and hopefully resolve whatever caused the crash.
So potentially unbricking machines remotely without needing someone physically there.
That's the idea. It's rolling out, eventually to Windows Home, opt-in for businesses now. Still being worked on, but a practical response to a major problem.
Makes sense. We're also hearing more about DSPM, data security posture management. What is that exactly?
It's basically a technology category focused on helping organizations figure out where all their sensitive data actually is.
Because it's spread across different clouds and systems.
Exactly. It's complex now. DSPM tools aim to automatically find sensitive data across multiple clouds, AWS, Azure, Google Cloud, etc.
And what's the value beyond just finding it?
It then helps automate assessing the security around that data. Are there vulnerabilities? Is it compliant with regulations like GDPR or IPPay? Gives you that cross-platform visibility into data risk. Vendors like IBM are offering these tools. It's about managing data risk in these complex environments.
Okay, helpful context. Finally, let's hit some notable breaches and the key lessons highlighted in the sources. Main Street Bank.
Yeah, their breach involved customer data leaked by a vendor. But the critical point the source makes isn't just the vendor leak, it's the bank's response time.
What happened?
The vendor told the bank about the leak in March. But the bank apparently kept using that vendor until June, after the leak hit the news publicly.
Wait, they knew in March but only stopped using the vendor 3 months later once it was public.
That's what the source suggests, seen as a real delay, a failure in managing that third-party risk effectively.
Concerning. Okay, what about the huge AT&T leak?
Massive.
Yeah.
86 million customer records leaked onto a Russian forum around May-June this year. But the data itself was stolen last year.
And it included social security numbers.
Yes, for over half the records. And crucially, they were decrypted SSNs.
Decrypted, meaning the attackers got the key too.
That's the strong implication. They didn't just get encrypted data. They likely got the encryption key or found a way to break the encryption. The leak had full PII names, birth dates, phone numbers, addresses, email, and those decrypted SSNs. A huge exposure.
Just awful for those 86 million people. And then there's Corona Pro. This sounds like a nightmare scenario.
It really does. An Indian grocery delivery startup, they got hacked, and the attackers deleted their virtual servers.
Deleted. Not copied, not ransomed, just gone.
Wiped out. And to make it even worse, their source code, stored on GitHub, also deleted.
Oh my God. For a tech startup, losing your servers and your code? That's potentially fatal, isn't it?
It absolutely is.
Yep.
And the brutal lesson here, really hammered home in the sources, is the apparent lack of good backups. Specifically, air-gapped backups copies completely disconnected from the network.
Because if everything online can be deleted at once...
It points to a fundamental failure in backup strategy. Their ability to continue as a business is now, according to the sources, highly questionable, A truly stark reminder.
That really underscores how critical the basics are, doesn't it? Even with all the sophisticated attacks, if you don't have solid, isolated backups. Wow.
Absolutely critical. Foundational.
Okay, we have covered a lot today. From those imminent 47-day website certificates and the first AI zero-click bug.
To how China's using AI, why ransomware keeps paying off for criminals, the scary state of water system security.
Right. Plus government actions, the EO, CMMC, state pushback, and these really stark lessons from breaches like Main Street, AT&T, and especially Corona Pro.
It really paints a picture of a constantly shifting landscape, doesn't it? Threats evolve, defenses try to catch up, regulations try to guide things, sometimes effectively, sometimes, well, less so.
So let's leave you, our listener, with a thought to chew on, stemming directly from that Corona Pro disaster.
Yeah.
If a hacker managed to do that to you, delete all your online resources, your servers, your code, everything like happened to them, would your business still be in business? Could you recover?
It really forces that hard question, doesn't it? Beyond just stopping the breach, do you have what it takes to survive a total wipeout? That absolute worst case scenario.
Have you planned for that? That's the question to take away and think about in your own situation. We hope this deep dive gave you some valuable perspective from these latest sources.